Hi, I'm Anna Rayner with Discount School Supply, and I'll be your instructor today as we experience all the wonderful things that you can create with Colorations liquid watercolor. Whether you're new to the world of art or an art specialist yourself, you'll find these activities easy to do and fun to create with for children of all ages. You may have tried watercolor before, but if you have, you've probably tried it in the little dry cake form such as these. And if you've tried this with children, you find very quickly that these colors turn to mud and are not so pretty on the picture. But what you'll find with Colorations liquid watercolor is the colors stay separate much more easily, and you have a wonderful and very inspirational color palette to choose from. With Colorations liquid watercolor, you get a creative new product that comes in 21 brilliant colors, including silver and gold. You get a product that's extremely economical, that will save you money over food coloring and other paints. You get a product that's completely non-toxic and environmentally safe. You get a washable product. Liquid watercolor washes out of most fabrics very easily. And most importantly, from a creative standpoint, you get a product that's extremely versatile, as you will soon see. So, let's get started. Let's get our hands into the product so that we can discover the brilliance and see what it is that makes this product so very, very special. Collage art. Pasta and rice make wonderful collage art when you color them with liquid watercolor, and you don't have to use any alcohol to set the color. Plus, you get a wide range of color to choose from. It's wonderful to work with, and let me show you just how easy it is. You take a Ziploc bag. I've got some pasta and some rice. I'm going to do the rice for you first. You just grab a few handfuls, and you take your Colorations liquid watercolor, as simple as can be. Squirt out a few squirts. Lock your bag. And you get that wonderful squishy feeling as you spread the color around. The fun part of the squishing is something you really shouldn't do on your own. You should give that to the children. It's part of the tactile sensory stimulation of child development, and it's part of the fun. All you do now is open it up and lay it out on foil to dry. Think of all the things that you could make and have fun with colored collage. Like this wonderful necklace that I'm wearing. Isn't this cool? Let me share some collage art activity ideas with you. To start with, this is just as simple as can be, and yet it's just gorgeous. The texture actually comes out three-dimensionally, and it's simple rice, pasta, but you notice how really good it looks when you pop out the design with colored tape and mount it on construction paper. It's simple, but beautiful. A lot of times older children like to make designs that are actual pictures, representational art. And as you can see, this is a very great exercise in imagination with a seascape. Collage boards are something you might not have tried. It's that sticky back paper. You peel off the top layer. This is a wonderful thing to bring out your rice and pasta onto. You simply peel it off, and here's rice, some wiggly eyes, and a little smile out of the pasta. And the background here we have done with salt glitter, which we'll show you how to color later with the liquid watercolor. And lastly, but not leastly, these wonderful little pins, wearable art. A lot of people love to give gifts or Mother's Day presents. There's always an occasion to give something to your teacher, your friend, your mom, some loved one. And these are the simplest things to make, and yet they always look beautiful. When you put on the pasta with all these colors and the rice on something as simple as cardboard, or this is a popsicle stick, you get something that actually looks gorgeous. With our second art process, Crayon Resist, discover the excitement of watching a secret message or a secret picture appear on paper. Starting with a white crayon, I'm going to draw something on the paper here. I'll just make a simple heart. And then I'm going to write a secret message. Now, if you're working with younger students, what you want to do is grab perhaps a yellow, a pastel, an orange, something that doesn't have a lot of color, so they can see where they're going. I'm going to show you here just some scribbles to show you that even the youngest child can enjoy this one. And then I'm going to take the bingo bottle full of liquid watercolor. I'm just going to go right over this, and you begin to see the crayon popping out there. And I'll focus here on our secret message. There you go. Isn't that nice? Put one more color on. You can do stripes or you can do solids. Either way, it really begins to come to life. And one thing you can talk about, the lesson here that goes beyond the art, is how a solid like wax resists a liquid, like the liquid watercolor. For some crayon resist activity ideas, check this out for something that's simple but really effective. Just 3 simple flowers in yellow, 3 colors of bingo bottles with liquid watercolor. Simple but really fun. Something that a child would definitely feel proud of. This little abstract is also something to feel proud of. One of the things that I've always loved about any kind of crayon resist is the wonderful textures that you get. But if you add this with the liquid watercolor, you get that wonderful background also. It's so rich, and again, all those choices of color, they just really sing. You get this vibrant, vibrant texture. It's really very sophisticated. And then last, fun, you have mask making with, of all things, a paper plate. This is a simple paper plate. The same techniques are done, and after it's dried, all I've done is taken and darted by simply cutting a little slit and fold it over to get a 3-dimensional look. With that 3D look, you can wear it better, you can hang it better, and it really looks unusual. You may have tried coffee filter art before using food coloring, but wait till you try it with liquid watercolor. It's so easy and simple, and the colors are just spectacular. You simply take a coffee filter like this one, fold it in half once, twice, 3 times, overlap a little so it's easier to open. Then, taking simple scissors, cut some little marks, some little notches. You can get elaborate here if you want with the cutting, but simple ones really do look very nice also. And the younger children can do these a lot easier. Then, taking bingo bottles filled with liquid watercolor, you're going to saturate both sides of your filter. I always like to use a lot of yellow because yellow gives you a wonderful green when it's placed right next to the blue. That's your secondary color, as they say. And I also like this magenta because it's beautifully punchy, especially against the yellow. So as you see, even on one of these larger filters, it goes very quickly. And now I'm ready to open it up. And like magic, you have a beautiful piece of art. Isn't that wonderful? And I'm going to cover it now and give you a little tip about making a second piece of art with it by covering it up, pressing on just ordinary construction paper, turning it over, and you get a second piece of art, a beautiful kaleidoscope print. And what's wonderful about this is it dries instantly. And isn't that great? You can hang it right away. You can use it as a note card right away. Everybody loves art that they can dry and take home right away. I'm going to show you some coffee filter art activity ideas next, and I'll start with these wonderful little flowers that are so simple to make and so beautiful to look at. This one is made with just a single coffee filter, and this one is made with 3. If you're working with older children, you can make it a little more challenging by adding 3, but they just look wonderful. And the next thing I want to show you is this is a new invention that I'm very proud of. It's just a wonderful addition to your classroom, and these are Mexican papel picado designs made again with coffee filter art. By simply taking one of the larger coffee filters, you can cut it down into a square, glue 3 together, and hang it from some lanyard or simple cord. And it makes a wonderful, wonderful decoration for the ceiling, or a special holiday, or certainly for Cinco de Mayo. These are also brilliant and beautiful and just really show off the 21 brilliant colors that you have with the liquid watercolor. These are laminated coffee filter art, and this one just happens to be cut in half and then sort of flipped around so that you can make a butterfly out of it. Very simple. And you see how every child's art really looks so different. The lamination kind of brings out the shine. You've already got such beautiful colors, but somehow when you laminate them, they just really, really are even more intense. And then lastly, I'll show you this one, which is also kind of a new invention. You'll discover when you play around with these things on your own, you come up with a lot of new ideas, and that's half the fun. This is a stained glass window effect, just by cutting a hole in dark construction paper and mounting or gluing your coffee filter art on the inside. And here, again, because the lamination brings out the color so beautifully, I've laminated these because the lamination is something that people like to do when they know something is going to stand the test of time. And isn't this the kind of thing that you think children and parents will want to keep for quite a few years to come? One of my very favorites is coloring wood with liquid watercolor. And as you can see from this mask that I'm holding, you get a wonderful effect as the Colorations liquid watercolor touches upon the various grains of the wood. It gives it a really rich tone. This is made out of simple lumberyard scraps using spools, beads, craft sticks, things that you probably have around on your shelf already. And I'll show you how easy that is. If you take a look at this little mask down here that I've already started, I'm going to show you how to do the coloring element with 3 different applicators. First of all, we'll start with the bingo bottles, and I'll show you here, just like you did with the crayon resist and the coffee filter. It's as easy as can be to just give a light squeeze and get the color. And I'm also going to show you how to use a paintbrush. Here I've got some paintbrushes and these wonderful little paint cups, and I'll give them some purple eyes. Or for the larger area, I could use a sponge. Let's go in here with a sponge. I'll do his eyebrows. Voila. So you see, a young child can easily grab a sponge, and a young child can easily use a bingo bottle. And an older child who might want more detail can simply get a fine brush. All of these activities are wonderful tools for developmental growth, great fun, and really teach children how to use a lot of these applicators in a creative and fun way. You know, wood staining activities such as these provide a lot of cognitive development and fine motor development for the children that you work with. It's a big decision for a child to figure out which tool is going to work best. For instance, how do I color the eyes? Will a bingo bottle work better here? How much should I squeeze the bingo bottle? How about trying a sponge here? Is that going to be effective? There's so much learning that takes place that most people never realize when they watch children doing an art activity. Did you ever stop to think about the fact that self-expression is one of the big goals of art, but there's also much more? The things that take place in the art activities that you lead are very important tasks that go way beyond self-expression and creativity, things like cognitive development, fine motor skills development, and also the important interpersonal learning and relationship building that takes place when they share materials in a cooperative environment. And isn't that great for you to know as you go about doing all these fun activities with your wood, your coffee filter art, and all the colorful, wonderful things that you create with the children. And they have a big, long-lasting impact on their learning. I have so many wonderful wood staining activities that I'd like to show you. So let's start first with a simple idea, simply staining some of the leftover blocks, some old dingy blocks that you might have in your classroom that are not looking so good. Look at this wonderful effect and the rich colors here. And here, this is made out of lumberyard scraps and some old craft things that I had in a box. I gave it to my son, and look what he came up with. He had great fun dropping it on with eyedroppers and sponges. It's a 3-dimensional frame. This one here, I'm also just wild about. It's so rich, it's so colorful. It actually has crayon resist as a base. So it's made out of spools and lumber scraps glued together. After the glue dries, a lot of crayon has been put on, a lot of gold and various colors dripped on. Isn't it wonderful? Here we come to a simple one. This is made out of the jumbo popsicle sticks. not colored ahead of time, simply colored with the bingo bottle full of liquid watercolor. And then afterwards a few woodsies placed on top and a little pipe cleaner wrapped around as a thing to hang from. Simple, but wonderful. And last, we have this little box here that is a great illustration of how the liquid watercolor looks on the grains of the wood. Look how beautiful that purple and pink has become. And inside of a magic surprise, beautiful little beads, all brightly colored, just like the necklace that I'm wearing. Glitter salt is wonderful to make and fun to use. I make it all the time myself for workshops, and my children love to work with me in making it. Look at all these colors you get. I've got them laid out in these little clear plastic jars that we have these in our catalog. But the salt glitter just looks so inviting when you see the whole color range. And this is probably only half the colors that you could make. And I'll show you how easy this is. You simply take a paper plate and regular table salt and dump some of your salt out on the plate. You take your liquid watercolor, squirt it on, and you take a spoon, and you basically just kind of squish the color in. I'm making a small amount here, but you can make a very large amount if you like in your classroom. You can make a whole box full at once. You could make all of the salt the same color. Say if you had a special holiday or special occasion, you wanted to make red and green for Christmas, you can do the whole box out of red and another box out of green. Or you can use this rock salt, which is available in most grocery stores, to get a slightly grainier effect. These look almost like sand terrarium kinds of the little things that you see at the bottom of a fish tank, and it gives you an interesting texture. You can get a whole range of color in rock salt as well as the range in the regular salt. But anyway, now as you're getting back to actually making the salt, you're going to take this, pop it into the microwave for just 2 minutes on high, take it out, and you are ready to work with it right then. Believe it or not, it's that instant. And it's actually fun to do in the microwave because when you get it out, it dries out about like this. And as it dries, it has these little crusty areas to it, which are nice to break up. It's kind of fun to break them up. And what you do for that is you simply get a Ziploc bag, open it and pop it in, and then you pass the salt in here. I'll do it for you right here. Basically then just zip it up and pass it to the children to crack up and crunch up and make it into fine little sand. And then this goes directly into your plastic jar ready for use. So simple? It really is. You'll find all sorts of things to do with salt glitter, but I'm going to give you a couple of ideas that are really unusual. One of them is called salt crystal crinkles, and you'll look down and see here the wonderful effect that you get on paper. This is really a combination of art and science because it shows how by dripping salt on top of a liquid watercolor you get these wonderful crystals that form. And all I've done here is taken a piece of paper, crinkled it up, and using the eyedroppers dropped on 2 or 3 colors of liquid watercolor. Then afterwards, before it's dry, I'll sprinkle on a bunch of the colored salt. As it's drying, and you look at the pattern down here and see, you get a nice absorption there that looks like a crystal pattern. Isn't that wonderful? They're very sophisticated. And afterwards, we can turn them into things like journals here, or just use them as wall art. Another idea is what's generally called a sand art terrarium, only we're calling them salt art terrariums. This is the rock salt here, done in these nice layers into a jar. You can use plastic or a baby food jar, really any jar will do. And here we have the table salt in a brightly colored salt art terrarium. Here's another art process that's super easy that has dozens of applications. It's making transparent colored glue. As a base for the colored transparent glue, you use the clear glue that comes in our liquid watercolor kit, or we also sell it in a 16-ounce size. And I'll show you just how easy it is to make this product. You simply take a Nancy bottle and fill it up about 3/4 full of the clear glue. You just turn over into it a couple of squirts of your liquid watercolor, simply shake it up, and this is what you get. Very quick, very simple, and again, you have 21 colors to choose from. Imagine that. So I'll show you how to make a simple glue butterfly using our blue. Just going to make a few zigzags on the paper. And you'll see it's kind of raised. It's a little bit like a cake icing. It's nice and shiny. I'm going to take some yellow, make a little reverse zigzag here. And then I'll put a few red squiggles, just because I love color. I always like to have a lot of color. And I'm going to fold it in half and simply squish out with my fingers. Something as simple as that is going to make a beautiful glue butterfly. It dries shiny and it won't crack. You'll come up with lots of fun things to make out of your colored glue, but let me give you a couple of my favorite activity ideas just to get you started. If you check this out, it's an adorable little crab that my daughter made, and it's made simply by folding paper into blotter art, adding a couple of wiggly eyes with soft glue and soft glitter. And it dries shiny and it won't crack. Now let me show you something a little different. These sun catchers are also wonderful to make and look great hanging from the window. These are the freestyle fashion, and here is a more structured picture using a rubbing plate. To make these, you simply take your glue and turn it over on cookie sheet or foil or a plexi sheet, let it dry for a couple of days, and then you can punch a hole in it and hang it in the window. Aren't they fun? Now here's a slightly different way to make a sun catcher. You take a piece of plastic and some puffy paint. You draw your picture out of the puffy paint and fill in with colored glue. Then, once it's dry, you simply hole punch and hang for a sun catcher or a mobile. Aren't they great? Next, we're going to show you something really silly and fun that we call crazy cream. It's taking shaving cream and adding your liquid watercolor. You simply take shaving cream and place it into an art tray, or you can do it on your table too. And using your liquid watercolor, just douse it with a few colors. I'm doing it on this art tray just to demonstrate for you, but you might want to do it on a whole table where you literally cover the whole table. Then it's really crazy. So you're going to douse it around, and before we finish, let me show you how to get it out of the bingo bottle. Say if you have your liquid watercolor stored in your cabinet, but you have it out on the table in the bingo bottles. To get it out here, all you have to do is depress with a fork and sprinkle. So now I've got 4 colors out here. And all I'm going to do is invite the children to start squishing and playing. And this is a very, very gushy experience. It's something that I think more adults should try, don't you? Now I'm also going to show you a different way to approach crazy cream, and that's in making it in individual colors. If you look here at this paint tray, it's a particularly fun way to use your crazy cream as separate colors, and I'll show you how easy it is to color it up. You simply take your bingo bottle, or again straight out of the bottle itself. But I love this method because lots of times I have the bingo bottles right in front of me anyway. Now I'm making up sort of an interesting color. It's kind of a deep orange. This is what we call tangerine. And it's ready to work with. Now, using these foam rollers, especially these with a little texture, and the paint tray, you can begin to see how interesting it is to just get textures of color. I'm going to add a little purple. See that wonderful pattern? And very quickly, you'll have a beautiful piece of art. Another really fun process is coloring spaghetti with liquid watercolor. I'll show you how squishy fun that is too. You simply cook spaghetti, add some oil, and you bring it into class and give each child a small handful. I'll show you here. And then, taking liquid watercolor, you simply squirt some on each child's plate. I'll put blue there and I'll add yellow here so that you'll see I can later combine these to make green. I've got some yellow on the linguine, and now the fun starts when you do your squishing. I'm just going to add and see how brilliantly yellow that becomes. And here, I'm going to squish in here, and the child is doing this. Everybody has their own plate. And now watch what happens when you combine. I'm going to suggest to the children that they trade little bits of spaghetti. So we've got some yellow and blue, which makes see it here. Green. Isn't that beautiful? And one thing that my children like to do is keep it for a sculpture. A lot of times if you want to keep it the next day, you simply add some of your clear glue, a tablespoon or two, squish it onto the children's plates, and let them form it into something that will dry overnight and harden. My children like to make little hair faces out of this the next day. Here's a little hair, and they'll add wiggly eyes and make a little face. Isn't that cute? One of my absolute favorite is marbleizing with Colorations liquid watercolor. And as you can see from the art that I'm holding, it's really spectacular to look at all those color swirls and beautiful patterns of color. And it's amazingly simple to do. I'll show you how. You simply take an art tray and add shaving cream on top, about an inch or so thick. Very simple. And now you take your liquid watercolor and you sprinkle a few colors on top. We've got orange. I'll add some green. Yellow always punches up all the colors. It adds a lot of light and brilliance. So I always love to use a little yellow. And now here's some purple. And taking an ordinary fork, I'm going to run through my mix 3 or 4 or 5 stripes and just get myself a little pattern going. It looks like what's traditionally called a marbleizing pattern. Now I'm placing on top of this shaving mix a liquid watercolor circle. Let me show you what that looks like. I've just placed it right on top. I'm going to lift it up, place it on a second art tray, and using a biocolor scraper, I'm going to scrape off the extra. And to everyone's amazement, the color stays right on top and gives you that beautiful pattern, not just on one side, but actually on the back as well. These liquid watercolor circles are really quite amazing to use. You can fold them in half and cut them. I'll make a little heart out of this one for you. It's a gauzy kind of texture. It's very durable. You can do a lot of arts and crafts projects with these afterwards. You can staple them. It glues really well, unlike felt, which is always so hard to glue together. If you make projects out of the liquid watercolor circles, they'll glue together very easily. And as you can see, I'm getting a hole punch in it, and I can even stitch it with a blunt needle, a nice safety needle, and I can get some sewing projects out of it. Let me show you how easy it is to decorate it beyond this point. This is pretty nice just as it is, but you might like to take it a little farther. Let me show you what we can do. Taking our liquid watercolor markers, I'm going to write on here, and I'll show you how nicely you can get a marker to stick. And now, taking the bingo bottles, I'm going to add some extra designs. A lot of children like to embellish what they already have, and this gives them that choice. And if I want to now, I can hang it onto a lanyard and have something to wear. Or here's some other ideas for marbleizing. Taking the liquid watercolor circles once again, I've made this little heart by taking 2 of the circles and stitching them together and stuffing them with cotton balls. Or this cardboard frame, it's been marbleized and just had a little glitter and feather added. Or how about this construction paper headband? You just cut strips of construction paper and add a marbleized flower. Or this wonderful little pin that's been marbleized first and had simple collage materials added on top. Aren't they cute? Liquid watercolor is the perfect medium to use as a spray paint, and it doesn't clog your bottles. Check this out. I'm going to spray over this coffee can lid and simply reposition it. And watch how you get that secondary color building. I'm going to add some blue. And you see really a wonderful color wheel forming. Now here I have something we call unruly rulers, because you can also use stencils. You don't have to use a coffee can lid. That just keeps it easy for the younger ones. But here we've got what's called an unruly ruler, which is kind of a jazzy stencil. I'm going to spray around here. Maybe I'll spray some red towards something that looks a little bit like it could be an eye. Build up some yellow and lift it off. What you get from a simple coffee can lid is something like this. This is using several lids together, spraying and then repositioning the lids. And what you get from a fancier stencil is something like this, which you can easily turn into a placemat. Open-ended art is also wonderful with liquid watercolor, and as you can see from this painting that I'm holding, the colors are beautiful and brilliant, and I'll show you how to use it to make it even easier. If you take your liquid watercolor and place it in these little paint cups, it keeps separate, and placing a different brush in every color helps keep them separate. And what you're going to do is simply as you can see, you can use paint brushes or sponges. You can even use eyedroppers. And I'm going to show you a technique to thicken your paint slightly by adding the white. Here I've got blue added to Colorations white. And I'll show you the same purple that I had at the top added to Colorations silver. The silver, gold, and white are your specialty colors, and you can do a lot with those. Just simply painting straight gold is very effective, especially on dark paper. This really pops out. And I'll show you the silver. I'll try some over the blue here. And let's try an eyedropper. This is pink added to white to make a nice opaque pink. Adding the white Colorations liquid watercolor will make your paints just a little bit thicker, but it also gives you another paint palette, another color range to work with. Let me show you, for example, how creamy that yellow is. Isn't that beautiful? There will be times that you'll want to thicken your liquid watercolors, and I'll show you two ways to do that. One is using your Colorations liquid white. You can add white to any of the color palette, and it not only makes it opaque, but it also makes it thicker. Let me show you what I mean by that. This is going to be the turquoise, not thickened with white. This is just straight out of the tube. And now I'll show you what that turquoise looks like when it has the white blended. Not only, again, do you get a creamy thickness, but it totally changes the color palette. Now another way to do that is to use eco foam pellets, and this will make your paint shiny and just thicker still. So you grab some of these packing pellets. We use these in our packing material because they're very earth friendly. They're actually made of cornstarch, and they'll decompose in landfills. Did you know that? Well, I'll show you how to use liquid watercolor to make what we call eco foam paint. You simply squirt on some liquid watercolor. Take a brush, and then paint. What you'll get is a paint that stays slightly raised, that's beautifully shiny, and that doesn't run down the paper. And you'll also get a paint that looks beautifully colorful like this. Next, I'm going to give you some open-ended art painting ideas. And the first one I want to start with is using this large liquid watercolor material. It's actually 4 feet by 10 feet. Can you imagine how large that would be and how creative it would look colored with liquid watercolor? It's just this big, and it has plastic backing so that the watercolor doesn't go through to your floor or your table as you're painting. You can use it for a group activity or one large, very impressive mural, or you can cut it up into individual projects like this placemat we are showing you here. Now this is a very simple placemat that's done simply with eyedroppers, but it looks so brilliant and so beautiful. Imagine even laminating it for lunchtime activities. Now, this is Ecofoam paint, making a monoprint. What I've done here is just mixed up a number of colors and actually painted onto a Ziploc bag and then printed onto plain construction paper to get a beautiful little monoprint. Next is stamp art. Did you know that you actually can fill empty stamp pads with liquid watercolor? This is what we have for you here, and we actually do carry them in our liquid watercolor kit. They're blank stamp pads, and you simply turn a bingo bottle over to fill them up and begin stamping creatively. The next one we're going to show you is Gelatin Giggles, and this one is a lot of fun. I know you're going to love this. You take Knox gelatin, which you get in your grocers, and you make up a bunch of Jell-O in a bowl the night before. I've got one here for you. And you're going to shoot it with liquid watercolor using simple eyedroppers. Look what happens. I'm going to shoot it in and then squirt. And the color just explodes there. Whoop! And you get that wonderful gushy sound. I'm going to take some yellow because I know that will blend with the magenta to make orange. And let me show you a darker color up top as I'm going to shoot it through. Bev Boss does this at her school in Roseville, and I've heard her say this one activity she could take out every single day and the children would never get tired of it. Just look what happens as all the layers and cracks start to take on that color. It's so totally unpredictable and really what the process of discovery is all about. My own children tried this and they were so amazed at some of the different effects that they could get. I'm going to take it and begin to show you what happened when I did this at my house. I'm going to drip a little bit on top so it'll go down in the cracks, and I'm going to open it up. And now the squishy fun really does begin. Look what happens as it begins to break down. Isn't that something? If you take this outside now into the sun, you'll find that these little chunky crystals of gelatin start to look like gemstones. Aren't they wonderful? Next, I'm going to show you a new discovery of ours called cornstarch fadeaway. You take simple cornstarch from the grocery store and fill an art tray or even your sand tray. I've sprayed one row here. I'm going to make a rainbow for you, but you can make any kind of colors. I'm going to spray here into an arch, and this is about 2 boxes of cornstarch that I've used for this one tray. I'm going to put a little magenta at the top. And now I'm going to ruffle my hands right through it. I'm just going to lay my hands on top and ruffle through, and magically the color totally disappears. And this makes for a great tactile activity. Next, we're going to talk about some traditional crafts. You know, all of you have a few craft favorites that you bring out every year because you know they always work. They're your favorites, the children love them, and you know a year never passes that you don't try these crafts. Well, I have a few of my own that I've tried blending with Colorations liquid watercolor, and I'm going to show you those results. This is Crayola Model Magic right here, this little man out of Model Magic and this little cat. Just simply modeled with the hands and placed on a paper clip and then painted afterwards with liquid watercolor. The colors are really vibrant. And in this box, you see a little diorama, a little flat sculpture in the back of a box, also painted. The next thing that I want to show you are these crowns. Now, everybody does hats and crowns throughout the year, and these 2 vibrant crowns are simply crayon resist with collage art on top. Next, there's tie-dyeing, also a favorite that many programs do. This is marble tie-dyeing on the fabric here. This is simply done by taking old sheets or any cotton fabric, tearing it into small squares, and wrapping little marbles with rubber bands, and then squirting on with liquid watercolor. The colors dry beautifully, and you can make various little craft projects out of them. This is tie-dyeing on your liquid watercolor circles. Also a beautifully rich effect, just slightly different than the fabric, but it gives you the opportunity to do tie-dyeing a couple of times during the year, once with fabric and once with your liquid watercolor circles, just to teach a slightly different technique. Lastly, I'd like to show you plaster of Paris. I know most of you are doing some kind of plaster of Paris, be it small children when you make a little handprint and make a mold of their hand, or older children who oftentimes make special holiday molds out of whiteware or plaster of Paris. These are both beautifully painted with liquid watercolor, and especially with the touches of the silver and gold, you really see the color shine on that whiteware. All of these techniques have been so beautifully combined with Colorations liquid watercolor, and I know you'll find some other discoveries on your own as you try to combining liquid watercolor with your favorite arts and crafts as well. You know, not all programs have an art specialist. In fact, most people have little or no training in the arts, much less how to run an arts and crafts activity. And yet, everyone who works with children knows that the arts are one of the best ways to help children learn and grow. We hope these ideas will give you lots of creative new energy and lots of effective ideas that will work in your classroom in that very important work that you do with children.